what a lot of people were expecting. They managed to take down the #1 team on the EUW Ladder 5's ladder. Okay, I got that in the wrong order, but you know what I meant.
Yeah.
So they managed to take down that team.
They were the top-ranked team on the US ladder. That is the biggest thing about Sparta coming into last week. The biggest thing about Sparta coming into this week, not even here. It's different dimension that are here up against Reason Gaming. And Reason, I feel like, are going to need to perform to their expectations in this series because they're a 4th to 6th place Challenger team over the last season. But we know that now with Challenger starting to heat up in towards LCS, they could potentially contend for the 2 remaining LCS spots. So, different dimension have a lot bigger a mountain to climb.
So we just talked a little bit about the road of how Reason Gaming got here. Let's expand on that just a little bit here, Stress. So in that first series up against SK Gaming Prime, the first game did not go well by any means. Anyone who looks at the game would say, honestly, they got crushed. They didn't have any signs of life. And SK Gaming Prime ran away with that game and looked like they're going to run away with the series.
They did, but maybe that was the wake-up call that Reason Gaming needed because in Game 2, it was a much closer affair right up until about the 30-minute mark where Reason actually managed to gain a lead and even the series up at 1-1.
And that was the name of the game for the third game as well, Stress, because they were completely even up until late into the game. And then even then, SK Gaming Prime looked like they were going to win the game. Then they go for Baron, and then Zayu comes in with a mind-blowing steal, takes away the Baron, and then they win the game off the back of that.
Yeah, they did. And, honestly, Reason need to be consistent this week. And I feel like a lot of that is going to come from their mid laner.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the mid lane, they have Take Fun. And his first game was really just, it was back and forth. In fact, not even back and forth. The series was back and forth, but the first game, not good at all. He went 1-10-1. Horrific scoreline. But then game 3 bounces back and goes huge. Goes 16-3-5, which is a completely different story entirely.
Yeah, indeed. And it's all down to Take Fun's comfortable champion picks, which you look at a Zed, you look at a LeBlanc, he's very comfortable on that, but as soon as he was forced off onto a champion that he doesn't play so much and has a lot of jungle pressure put on him, there he kind of fell apart. So that is a big factor for Reason here.
And on the opposing side, they have a player who doesn't fall apart at all. In the game that they had, in both of those games, they of course won the series 2-0, but he played Corki in both of those games. That is of course dominant, and he had a killer scoreline, 10.25 KDA in both of those games. Incredible.
Yeah, and as we head towards the beginning of this game, you have to think the reason they're going to either pick or ban away that Corki from Dominant. His positioning was superb, and that was one of the biggest talking points about Different Dimension coming here into week 2.
Yeah, if they don't do something about that Corki, as either ban it out or pick it away, they're absolutely insane because they need to do something about it. Otherwise, he'll just run away with another series. And if you haven't watched the series, go back and take a look. He was incredible on that champion. We cannot come up with enough superlatives to explain how good he is with that champion. But either way, guys, we are now into Champion Select. We'll see what these teams have in store for us as we take a look at the first couple banned champions. First one comes out will be Jace coming in from Reason Gaming.
So this is something we've already looked at, and we kind of went through our own picks and bans phase. Jace and LeBlanc were two of the high priority ones that we thought were going to get banned away. Mage Bane's Jace is very, very strong. Yes,
indeed. LeBlanc taken away here by DD, followed up by a Fiora ban. And last week we saw that come out. This week, no different, aimed at Warrior Lady.
Yeah, so I'm not going to get caught off by that one this week. So Warrior Lady is a very high-ranked challenger solo queue player and plays Fiora pretty much into almost everything and does very well. So no surprise this week to see Fiora banned out there. But I would kind of say that perhaps this fourth ban is a little surprising.
Right, so Orianna comes out here, and that's different from what we saw last week because they were banning Zed away from Take Fun every game.
Yeah, and it doesn't go along with what we actually have listed as our expected bans, but there's one that we were expecting.
Yeah, absolutely. We've spoke about this extensively. Corki comes out here, will be taken away. They didn't decide to pick it up, so they'll ban it away.
Now, what this is going to leave open here is they have to ban Gnar on red side. That's going to leave Lee Sin available for Zayu, which is his highest played champion. There's also a couple of other things there that are available. Kubon could look for a Maokai, for an Irelia as a first pick. We saw both of those in the SK Prime games, and
yes, there we go. Okay, so the alarm bells were ringing because Gnar was not banned out as a sixth ban coming in here. and that will instantly be picked up by Kubon. It's just too good to pass up.
This is the first time we've seen Na really in the top echelon of competitive. We had it earlier in the rounds for the expansion tournament, but that game was a little bit of a wild one. But this time, I think this is a big statement by Reason having this available, and that is a big pickup here for Kubon in the top lane.
You know what else is open? Jarvan.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see if they go with that combination because, you know, you mentioned this last week. This is the reason why Na is so huge right now. Either way, let's take a look at the champions that DD have managed to pick up here. Lucian and Nami will start off their picks rather.
Yeah, they will indeed. So that's a very potent bottom lane, but you already mentioned Jarvan here. So last week we saw Zayu prioritize Jarvan over Lee Sin and not really do all that well on it. We kind of were umming and ahhing because it was clear he wanted to pick Lee Sin, but the rest of the team wanted Jarvan. Now to go alongside Na, that would be an impeccable pickup for that fight synergy in the middle of the game, but it is still not locked in yet, and I believe we're going to get an AD carry alongside this.
Ooh. Okay, so they swap up to Ezreal here, coming in for the AD carry of Celiva. Now, we know he plays this, but look at this Lee Sin coming in from Zayu, and rather, Zayu 350 plus games in solo queue on Lee Sin. This is his main jungler, and they managed to take that away for him here.
Yeah, indeed. You have to feel that Zayu is going to feel a lot more comfortable on this than the Jarvan from last week. But Ezreal is a champion that has ever so slightly been creeping back into the competitive scene. We see it from time to time when Corki is not available, when Lucian is not available. Typically, we've been seeing a lot of Graves, and they did hover it for a while, but Ezreal, or Celiva on Ezreal, is something that I'm looking forward to seeing. That's a lot of poke that's going to come out from Ezreal, but there's a lot of mobility currently on the Reason Gaming lineup. You look at Lee Sin and Na, who both have a lot of mobility, Ezreal as well. This could be a very difficult team to lock down.
Well, Different Dimensions are thinking hard about what they want to do against this difficult-to-lock-down team. They're locking the Maokai, and they're looking towards the Ahri, which will also be locked in here for the mid lane.
Yeah, that Maokai lock-in, though, is a little bit more ambiguous, perhaps, for Different Dimension than normal teams or other teams, because Anon Psycho ran Maokai in the jungle. So this is basically saying that we can either run it up in the top lane into Nara if we really want to, we can see what the rest of your composition is going to be here, and then pick something else as a top laner. So there's a lot of options still available for Different Dimension. They still have either a jungler or a top laner still there, but Reason Gaming, man, Take Fun might get one of his top champions. We didn't even mention that coming through picks and bans, that Zed is one of his favorite champions, and it's available here, and we're all the way down onto 4th pick.
Yeah, I mean, DD didn't ban it. They opted towards the LeBlanc, which we saw go huge. We had the stats from that from before as well. They banned the Orianna, which is somewhat interesting considering Zed is left open. Or he might look at the Fizz here. He is hovering over it, but what is for certain is they have locked in the Leona for the bot lane. So that's going to be going alongside the Ezreal, and they will lock in the Fizz here for Take Fun.
Man, okay, Fizz is a champion that we haven't seen in the middle lane for a little while. He lacks a lot of wave clear, and that's something that Reason Gaming perhaps could end up struggling with, depending on how this game actually goes. But Leona in the bottom lane, another champion that we really don't see too often. And between Leona and Fizz, that sets up some really, really difficult to avoid roams out from that support.
Yeah, this is a scary-looking composition here, especially with that Gnar coming in. Zayu on one of the biggest champions, Celiva, and Take Fun feeling comfortable on their own champions. Now, with one champion left, can Different Dimensions bring something out here that will be the glimmer of hope that they need to come up against this composition?
Yeah, it's still up in the air, but another thing about that Fizz matchup here, up against Ahri, obviously you can dodge the charm, and it's kind of a matchup that can be very, very difficult for Ahri to compete in. But as we head towards our final lock-in, which does get locked in, let's take a look exactly at Different Dimension. What this screams to me right now, single target crowd control out from Different Dimension. If they catch anybody in the middle game, it'll be Taunt, it'll be Twisted Advance, Charm. Any of these from Different Dimension are going to be able to pick somebody off very quickly.
Yeah, double Taunt as well. When you get hit by one, then there's no dodging the next one. You are CC'd for days. Reason Gaming, well, you touched on it before, but you've also got a little bit of pick here as well. You've got that Assassin from the mid lane as Fizz. So both of these teams looking to knock away a single target, but then you look at the Gnar as well in the top lane for those team fights.
Yeah, that Gnar is going to be a very different factor here in this top lane. We've had him banned out unanimously in every single game, bar that one that we saw in the series with Ascension. But in this game, how is it going to do? Because, okay, you don't have anything to combo off the ultimate with Jarvan, which we have seen time and time again, but right now we know he's a lane bully. We know how dominant he is up against laners like Maokai, and this is Kubon, who is a former LCS player here. Going up against Warrior Lady, you have to think that they've played this matchup before.
Yeah, and talking about LCS, look at Stellar as well, also coming from the LCS. There's a lot of history from the Reason Gaming team. You got Libic, you got Kubon, know each other from MYM. This is a star-studded lineup here at Stress, and yes, week one was definitely not only uphill struggle, but a giant upset. But if they're to upset Reason Gaming as well, that would be a huge accolade to have under their belts heading into the next round.
It would be massive. If they can back-to-back take out two of potentially the hottest prospects in the tournament when you look at how the bracket formed, that is so much of a big statement. I mean, Different Dimension, are they the team that could?
Maybe. I mean, like, they've managed to take down that big team in week one. Can they keep up the momentum? The first game's definitely going to find that out. Make sure to stay up to date with us on Twitter at LL Esports. Of course, use the hashtag LCS expansion. And we are now into game, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see the results and answers to all of our questions as we head into this game. Reason Gaming sporting the blue colors down in the bottom left, of course, and Different Dimensions in the upper right on the red corner.
Yes, indeed. Now, Na into Maokai. That is a lane that I believe everybody in Challenger Solo Queue has been trying to avoid for quite some time. I have a feeling that Warrior Lady is just going to forgo a lot of the laning phase, get through it as safely as he can, unless he can find some kind of opening, and then get to the team fights. Because you look at this lineup, you look at a Maokai, you look at a Rammus. They're going to be very difficult to deal with as a front line. And that's then up to Reason to do. And Ezreal isn't the highest damage AD carry. Fizz, yes, will get very fed if you get him the kills. And Gnar is kind of the unpredictable factor right now. We haven't seen him all that much in competitive, and this is a test here. Can you take down a team like Different Dimension with two strong frontline champions?
Yeah, that is definitely the question here, Stress. But, you know, I'm also interested about Zayu because, of course, we look at his Lee Sin. We know he's super strong at the champion, but if we rewind it back to last week, second game, they actually decided to put him on Jarvan rather than putting him on the Lee Sin. And we know he's not a Jarvan player. We've seen his stats. We just know he's not a Jarvan player. And does that mean that that's just not his playstyle? But clearly, heading into the second week, the team was like, okay, we'll actually put you on this champion this time. We'll let you have your champion, and we'll see how it works out, despite having that golden opportunity for the Gnar Jarvan.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question that I have to feel that Reason will have posed themselves in this week, is did forcing Zayu onto a champion we really kind of wanted him to play, rather than his own comfort one, did that upset Zayu enough that the series against SKP wasn't as close as it should have been, or was closer than it should have been, should I say, because they really did struggle against SKP. But we are, however, into the laning phase. You saw Reason pushing up fairly aggressively in the bottom lane, but as yet, DD are pushing in pretty heavy.
Yeah, Different Dimensions are making a huge push onto this bottom lane. We'll clear out the minion wave before Reason Gaming bring themselves up to pace, but shouldn't be missing too much CS as he has set them up perfectly for underneath the tower.
Of course, Leona's going to have that Relic Shield for the first couple as well, but there's the difficulty. They didn't really catch that last one, so although they get the experience from it, the difference in gold, DD will put that in their pocket and say that's a small win for us.
So, you know, now talking about mid lane, Mage Bane up against Take Fun. And this is a matchup, well, it's at least Fizz and Ari that we don't see all that often. We'll have to be very interested to see how these two players work out.
It's honestly down to Anon Psycho to get into this lane for Mage Bane and help him out against Fizz. Fizz, after you get about that level 3, level 4, can really start to compete in the lane against Ari. Now, we do have a slight pause, so hopefully it won't be too much. Yeah, just one player disconnecting. So hopefully we'll be back into game fairly shortly. But once you've hit that level 3, level 4 point on Fizz, specifically level 4, you get the extra point in Playful Tricks, so that when you fall, you get another, I think it's 50 to 55 damage. So in that lane, if Ari can't dodge that amount of damage, Fizz basically drops her, autos her, and then wins the lane from there. Ari has to sit all the way back until 6. You've got to farm from as far a distance as possible.
And we look at the mid lane, and then we think of the junglers. That's where the natural synergy is. And Zayu, on this lane sin, we know it's his big champion. We've hopped on about it over and over again. I'm excited to see it in competitive play, because this is a solo queue champion. And the biggest thing about Lee Sin, it's all about mechanics. So we know he has that nailed. Does he have the decision-making down?
That's a good question. And honestly, you have to say yes. I mean, Reason wouldn't have him on their lineup in the position they are, alongside members like Kuban, like Celiva, like Libic, who, you know, have been around a while, if they didn't feel like he lived up to the rest of the team.
So on the opposing side, his counterpart was going to be Anon Psycho, sporting out Rammus in this game. So a lot of people have criticized Rammus and being like, he's not really a jungler, he just goes from lane to lane ganking, and that's not really jungling, but it means we'll see a lot of him in the early game. But we talk about
Lane
Lee
to lane
Sin
ganking.
here. Lane to lane ganking.
Is,
he walked over a ward though,
yeah.
and that was pinged out. Magebane obviously aware of this, keeping him interest perhaps, but now he makes his way out, and he can start going back into lane, be a little bit more confident. Zayu puts down his own ward.
Yeah, really nice ward out there in the mid lane just to keep him in check. But let's take a quick look up at the top lane, because I just noticed that Warrior Lady had to teleport back into lane already. And Kuban is sitting pretty happily ahead on farm and with his teleport still available. So Kuban's going to be able to sit here for a long time. So Asna, throw out the Boomerang Blade, get the harassment down, land a couple of auto attacks. And from there, Warrior Lady's already losing a lot of health.
Yeah, he's not having a fun time. Look how far back he's standing behind his minion line. Kuban making his life a living hell currently. And he did have to go for that early back. So has picked up those double Doran's rings, and look at all the sustain in terms of pots as well.
Yeah, indeed. And let's take another look at the items here. But over on the side of different dimension, Quillcoat already picked up by Rammus, and another ward and a pink ward. So already different dimension have their game plan in mind for the vision control for this early game. Let's ward out Zayu. It's already been working. Let's continue that using a jungler like Rammus, who has found a lot of play in solo queue. Has a lot of presence, but speaking of presence...
Well, comes into the top lane, will use his Sonic Wave, but that's quickly flashed away by Warrior Lady. He's both summoners down now.
That's a terrible position to be in, and we're only 5 minutes into the game as well. Kuban was even prepared to go into Mega Gnar. Had they not got that flash out of Warrior Lady, if they needed to follow up, he had timed that perfectly to be able to go in.
Look how scared Warrior Lady has to play now. He doesn't have any wards, he only has that ward behind him. And he has the health potions, and that's pretty much it. Lee Sin comes again, and as he's heading into the top jungle, that could be a very real possibility. Warrior Lady has pretty much run out of options.
I want to take a look at the warding, actually, out of different dimension. We saw them pick up a lot of wards, and there's another one going down from Anon Psycho, but take a look at the top side of their own jungle. They've warded the path for Lee Sin to come in through lane because of how far Warrior Lady's sitting back, but the bubble in the bottom lane.
Oh, lands onto Celiva, even past the arcane shift, and the Libic will jump in the way. The bump lands onto him instead. Will land the taunt. Of course, the taunt is not super strong in these early levels, but it's enough to send Reason Gaming running back to base.
Anon Psycho flashed there in that engage, and Exhaust was used too, so from that they get, what, 2 summoners? But top lane...
Zayu comes again, but, well, Warrior Lady was sitting so far back that Zayu was not able to pick up a kill, and we'll have to wait a little while before he goes back. The sapling chases him down, but you can see the difference in the CS now.
Yeah.
During that time, Warrior Lady sitting all the way back, can't even get near the creeps. 51 farm to 29 at 6 minutes 30. Bottom lane though, Wild Panda has been caught out. Don turns around, double tap onto Celiva. Actually has the increased damage from Wild Panda. First blood and the second kill as well onto Wild Panda. 2 for 0, 2 versus 2.
Great kill in the bottom lane, so everything there that Anon Psycho did using his flash earlier comes up trumps because they get all the summoners now from Reason Gaming. They get a double kill as well in that bottom lane, and they look towards the dragon as well. This is a great play at a different dimension, but look who's here. It's Zayu is around the dragon. They know he's there, denying them that further objective.
Yeah, just the fact that he was there meant, okay, we're going to take a step back. We don't need to bite off more than we can chew. We got 2 kills. That's good enough for now. But Magebane has been caught out in the middle lane. Will duke out the way of both the Sonic Wave and Chum the Waters. Magebane makes his way back to his tower and back to base. Only had to burn his ultimate.
Yeah, now that Magebane's level 6, it's a lot harder for Take Fun to actually get that kill. Earlier on, it is somewhat easier because without Spirit Rush, not so easy for Ahri to get away. But they've been focusing top lane so much right now that they didn't get the flash earlier on. And Anon Psycho is going to find himself Zayu in the jungle. It's going to be a smite war here.
Yeah, Zayu is saying, I see you're there, but I'm actually going to carry on going. Smite comes down, actually pre-smite by Rammus. Both junglers come in, and Zayu actually gets away with it.
Every victory helps. That is the one thing that I think a lot of players will say in League of Legends. But currently, Bubble was just dodged away.
In that bottom lane. So in the mid lane now as well, again we can see another CS advantage. The only lane that's not going the way of Reason Gaming right now is that bottom lane. And they're a little ways behind, but it's not too dire. They're actually keeping up in farm.
They're keeping up in farm, but take a look at the items. BF Sword to Phage right now. Add on to that Nami's added damage when she puts Tidecaller's Blessing onto Lucian. That's going to be a very powerful trade potential. So what Reason Gaming need to do is continue to land poke and then sustain up with Leona. But this Leona pick is getting towards the point where it's going to become a factor, because I would expect to see Libic roam towards the mid lane within the next couple of minutes and look to land a Solar Flare straight onto Ahri. But speaking of, again, Zayu roaming around the map, he's looking for top lane, but Warrior Lady's nowhere to be found.
Yeah, he continuously makes these aggressive plays, but he's always a couple seconds late, or when he goes for that initiation, when he goes for those plays he wants to make, they don't quite work out. And that kind of feels like a solo queue thing here. He's like, okay, at this time in the game, I'm going to go counter jungle their red. But Anon Psycho, as they're playing as a group of 5, he's kind of one step ahead of the game.
To give you an idea of how strong Gnar is in lane, Maokai has been commonly picked as a very strong top laner. Gnar is backing with nearly 2,400 gold right now and hasn't even felt pressured in nearly 10 minutes of this game. Kuban is on such a comfortable pick right now that he's just gone back, picked up the Giant's Belt and a Hex Drinker and wards to make sure he's safe in this lane. That is how strong Gnar is.
Yeah, he's not really feeling the pinch of Maokai right now, and take a look at that top lane. Warrior Lady is sitting way far back. Chum the Waters in the bottom lane will be not connecting onto Wild Panda. He will be flashing away from that one. Dominant comes back in. Very confident play considering that the jungler and the mid laner from the opposing team was just around the area. And speaking of that jungler, he is coming from around the side, but not in that bush. Jumps over, finds himself a Rammus, but commits anyway. Insect play onto Wild Panda, knocks him into his team, picks up that first kill. Solar Flare comes out. They'll be able to turn this one around as well. Anon Psycho drops. Dominic, can they make it the 3 for 3? He will back off to his tower. Culling comes through. It will be enough to push them back, but no kills in return. A 2 for 0.
Zayu finally gets his authority in this game. There's the Lee Sin play out of Zayu, and I have a feeling he was a little caught out by Anon Psycho even being there, but from the kick, it was a nice tidal wave out by Wild Panda. Was not enough, though. The Solar Flare comes down on top, and they make the most out of a failed roam from Take Fun. And let's go all the way back to that Take Fun roam, because that's 0-2 now on Ultimates, on Fizz with Take Fun. That is not going to be a good enough performance here from Take Fun. We mentioned that coming into this game. Take Fun needs to play to the best of his ability, and as yet, hasn't really been on point with those ults.
He has not, but he's still ahead of farm, he's still ahead of his lane, and we know from the past, Fizz only needs a couple kills to get rolling before he starts assassinating people. So it's a little early in the game to say he's not performing, but he's not going along that path just yet.
Agreed. He needs to show more, I think, would
Yes.
be the best way of putting that. But something we're seeing more of. There we go, mid lane.
Oh, comes in with the Chum the Waters. Now he lands it, jukes out of the way of the Charm. Easy peasy, picks up the kill onto Ahri.
There we go, Take Fun. That was what he needed. Landed the 3rd fish of the game. Hopefully from here, for his sake, he will get the rest of them. But that's exactly how Fizz versus Ahri goes when you dodge a Charm.
It does indeed, and now after that mid lane kill, they will move themselves onto the Dragon, that being from Reason Gaming. And now 12 minutes into the game, not too much to fear. Anon Psycho's not going to be able to just roll past Smite the Dragon, and that will be the first Dragon of the game going over to Reason Gaming. 1,600 gold advantage into 12 minutes into the game, not bad going.
And that Dragon purely comes from not only that catch, but the fact that neither top laner has their teleport available. There is going to be a slight window for Warrior Lady, but he's probably going to use that to get back to lane again, because that's what he's been doing the last couple of times. Anon Psycho looked to be ganking top, but I'm pretty sure it's warded out the air. Kubon knows this is coming, so he's not going to get caught out by this.
Yeah, he actually waddled towards that bush, and there was a pink ward there. So he tried to clear it out, and then saw the Lee Sin and decided to run away again. So at some point, he'll come back for that one. 2 hits remaining, won't be too difficult to clear away. But Lee Sin has also been spotted, and Warrior Lady will try and duke out the way of the wallet, but it's not going to be enough. Gets hit by the Gnarled. Zio's here to clean up, lands the last resonating strike. Anon Psycho returns, but goes for the 1-on-2. Make that a 2-on-2 with the roam from Magebane. Follows through with the charm, doesn't connect. And despite the roam, that's still a 1-0 going to Reason Gaming.
Reason Gaming's top lane from Kubon is going so well right now. He's not only ahead in CS, but that kill that goes to Lee Sin anyway is just going to put him so far ahead. He's already sat on 1,700 gold again, and he's going to shove it into the tower, get rid of that wave, and back for more items, and this is going so well up in that top lane.
Kubon has almost 2,000 gold in his back pocket. That's a lot of money to play with. We'll see what he picks up here. Already has that Hex Drink, as you mentioned. Now coming in with a pickaxe as well. He is absolutely loaded.
Over in the mid lane, though, Magebane has done something that's a little bit curious here. Yes, he is behind in the lane, but he's picked up a Negatron cloak before he's anywhere near his needlessly large rod. Take a look at his gold. 600 gold on him now. That means he's 1,000 away from a needlessly large rod. Negatron Cloak is only going to go into something like an Abyssal Scepter a little bit later down the line. That means Ahri is not going to be effective at all in this mid-game phase. Fizz is going to be able to blow people up with his Lich Bane. Ahri's just going to be there kind of landing a charm and hoping the rest of the team follow up with damage.
Yeah, I mean, you did mention in Champions like they're running a pick composition, but they need to be grouped up for that. So maybe they're looking to say, okay, mid-game, it's a roaming phase, this is how we'll play it, but we need everyone to chime in. It's not going to be Magebane making these huge plays and going all out and being like, okay, this is our star player. But facing down someone like Take Fun, who we know when he gets rolling, he will be their star player, he has to do something.
He does have to do something, and there's something else that has to be done in this game, and that's a little bit of de-warding here by Different Dimension up in that top lane, because it's allowing Zayu into the lane.
Here he comes, has the ultimate, slams him against the wall, lands the Sonic Wave, looks for the resonating strike, and here comes Jump the Waters as well, doesn't land, and they actually don't have enough damage with that not landing. Anon Psycho gets his torn off as well, drags him into the turret. With Magebane now heading into the area, can they get a cleanup off?
They may be able to. Anon Psycho is still full health.
Oh, Take Fun flashes right into Urchin Strike. Is it going to be enough damage? He's ticking down for the Ignite. Yes, it will. Maybe at the cost of his own life. Here comes the ultimate. The Spirit Rush comes out from Magebane. That's a 1-for-1.
It's 1-for-1, but how much was used there by Different Dimension? What have they still got available? Because Anon Psycho had to flash during that engagement, so the flash taunt is not going to be available for another couple of minutes. And take a look. Zayu is still kind of hovering around here. I don't think he can actually get anything done. That would be suicide, but he's picked up a Sightstone and Mobility Boots before even getting a Spirit Stone. That is exceptionally fast to have those two items, and it just screams to me that Zayu wants to be as aggressive into the enemy jungle using his mobility as possible. They want to find people, they want to have the damage come from Gnar, and then basically take any objective they want from that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, he'll have the ward jumps, but yes, he'll have even more vision, and you mentioned that before. They need to start clearing some of these out. And DD, they have made a conscious decision. They've gone up with the red wards, the red trinkets rather, and they also have been trying to do that, but top lane doesn't have their red trinket yet.
They didn't have their red trinket yet. Somebody that did go back and buy and pick up a red trinket. Oh, Solar Flare.
Oh, Solar Flare comes out, and again, the ultimate doesn't land. Yes, he flashed away from it, but again, that's another ultimate landing for Fizz.
And it was Magebane I was about to talk about, because yes, he swapped his trinket up. That's very nice, but it's his boots that I'm more concerned with. He's got Ionian Boots of Lucidity. Now, what that tells me is he wants a little bit more wave clear, perhaps, as we come into somewhat of an objective-based push game out of Reason Gaming here. But it's going to reduce his damage again. He's not going to be able to have anywhere near the amount of damage. What it says to me as well, throw out charms more often. And
now in the jungle, look at this. Reason Gaming again trying to vie over these buffs. And on Psycho actually resets the blue buff, so it will be going back to square one. Do have the bottom lane coming out here, so it's a 4 versus 2 unless the cavalry arrives. This time Anon Psycho will be able to get away the blue buff, and I believe that just went onto Mage Bane as well. Zayu tries to get someone as they're straggling off to the mid lane, but all in all, pretty successful from different dimensions.
Everything about Reason Gaming, and I'm going to say this word so much, it's all about the mobility of their team comp. Another item that screams mobility, Frozen Mallet up on Gnar in the top lane. That is an item that has not been bought on almost any champion for the best part of nearly 2 years, perhaps. And that is going to give them good chase potential.
But they do have Limit being caught out here. Zayu, however, is going right past the tower, going on one-on-one versus Dominant. This has become very, very messy. Culling comes forward, will be flashed away from by Celeber here, but Anon Psycho is on the chase, gets the taunt down. That'll be a dead Ezreal. Now they follow from Zayu as well. A Wild Warrior Lady just comes into the fight, picks up the double kill for Dominant in the bottom lane.
Finally, Warrior Lady gets himself grouped up with the rest of his team, and they get a kill. Take a look at the timing, though. Dragon has recently spawned. That is perfect timing for Different Dimension, with Zayu not even on the board. They're going to focus the Dragon, but it's top lane, Kubon, likely to get the turret in exchange.
Yeah, so that was a big commitment, but even so, Dominant 3-0-1, we know he was that big star player coming in on those first 2 games in round 1 strats, and this has only just set him up for another killer game as we get into the second round.
Oh man, this game is looking close, and you have to feel like Reason may be having somewhat of flashbacks to game 1 against SKP here, where Reason didn't start the series as hot as they felt they should have. And maybe this is the other wake-up call they're going to need here, because Reason have picked a very unorthodox composition. This is not standard for 4.19 meta by any means necessary.
Absolutely not. Now, in the bot lane, just spoke about Dominant, come up with the Static Shiv, has that alongside his Infinity Edge, 19 minutes into the game. Pretty good, coming in with the item war, 3-0-1, way ahead of his counterpart of Celeber.
There's a needlessly large rod from Mage Bane, so finally he gets a little bit of damage here. But a needlessly large rod on an Ahri at 19 minutes in the game is far later than you want it. Deathfire Grasp should be way completed by this. You should have Deathfire Grasp and your Sorcerer's Boots if you're playing Ahri standard. He's been under a lot of pressure from Fizz, and it all came from those early levels when Fizz managed to get that solo amount of damage down and then follow it up for the kill. So it's been Mage Bane's game to kind of recover from, and he's doing what he can with it.
Yeah, and honestly, that's kind of half of his job coming into this game. It's just don't die repeatedly to take Fun's Fizz. So good at those assassins, you've held your ground, and even though he doesn't have his Deathfire Grasp, he doesn't have these big items, it's not a case of it's too little too late. It's a case of from here, now you can start building up with those items, and then get back into the game, and then help us in this mid-game phase.
But take a look at who has, in fact, been doing well this game. Again, for Different Dimension, Dominant is currently sat at 3-0-1, and coming into this game, we said they had to ban his Corki. We know Lucian is his next best played. So if he plays both, that's, or to this standard at least, that is a great sign here for Different Dimension that he is 3-0-1, has 2 items completed already on that Lucian. That is a great spot to be in. Yeah,
I mean, we did mention that before, but we should reiterate that as well. He is their star player getting into this game. But now everyone's kind of gone back into the kind of macro game, kind of gone away from this one. In the bottom lane, we do have this one-on-one. Chun the Waters this time does connect. Merchant Strike as well, and the tick from the Seastone Trident. Doesn't even need his E as he comes out. Has to burn his flash, but in the one-on-one comes out ahead.
For everything that Mage Bane's been trying to do to hold on to these situations, again, in the one-on-one, he ends up falling, and that is not good for Mage Bane. He wanted a little bit of peace of mind down in that bottom lane as they swapped all of their lanes around, but it's not a good spot for Mage Bane so far. But again, ward control has not been all that good for Different Dimension. They've let a lot of wards into their topside jungle, and they haven't been clearing them out. That is something they really need to start doing, and with 4 sweeper trinkets and a load of pink wards that they bought earlier, should be easy enough to do.
Yeah, so it's been a conscious decision as Lee Sin takes down the turret in the bottom lane. Thought we was going to see something in the mid lane, but it's been a conscious decision to clear out these wards. They just kind of haven't gotten around to it, and we did get into a slow part of the game just a couple seconds ago.
That's the problem, though, with this double sight stone composition here at a Reason, is they have so many wards that they put down Ooh, Solar Flare.
Oh, Solar Flare to follow up after the flash from Anon Psycho. Zayu, however, has managed to get caught out by the taunt. He has to flash away here. Livic is still sitting on the front lines, but Dominant is punishing him hard. Double tap, piercing light. Not enough damage as the Eclipse comes up.
Oh, Mage Bane from the side.
Oh, snipes the Lee Sin down, looking for seconds on to take fun. Misses the charm. Here's the ultimate, enough to dissuade him from going on to Leona.
Right at the beginning of that fight, a very nice bubble landed from Wild Panda, caught up both Ezreal and Fizz, and from there the damage was lacking. Reason couldn't keep pushing, and Different Dimension are now on the push here. That wasn't enough to clear the wave. They're going to get this turret.
Yeah, that was nowhere near enough to clear out the wave. All the minions are still standing. Yes, they clear it out now, but not before the turret goes down. 2 minutes until the Dragon. Time for DD to go away, recuperate, and come into this strong.
But there's a big factor that hasn't yet reared its head in this game, and that is Kubon's Gnar. He has not been any of these fights. He hasn't been anywhere other than top lane and has had no impact on the rest of the game. Warrior Lady is struggling enough, so put that in context when he joins the fight in Mega Gnar form, how much more difficult it's going to be for Different Dimension.
That's their trump card coming into these fights. We have to make sure that works, though, if you're looking at the side of Reason Gaming, because so far, this is a very even game. A lot of people, a lot of the mindsets from a lot of people heading into this game between these two players is that, between these two teams, rather, is that Reason Gaming are going to be respecting Different Dimensions even more, rather than what Sparta did in week 1. But Different Dimensions putting up a damn good fight, only 500 gold behind. They are definitely in this game and definitely in this series. This is a lot closer than people were expecting this series to be already in game 1.
And a lot of the gold that they're down on, you said 500, they're 1,200 gold down on the top lane. So the rest of the map for them is doing well enough to cover for Warrior Lady. And we know that Maokai is not necessarily picked for his laning phase. It's picked for your mid-game fights, where you can group as a team, have the damage reduction, and then pretty much engage whenever you want to into your opponents. The problem they've got to watch out for, they have a lot of single target focus. Kubon is very tanky and is getting even tankier with another Giant's Belt and Chain Vest. And when Kubon jumps in, if you don't crowd control him and you're standing by a wall, that is almost an instantly one team fight for Reason Gaming.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a problem as we approach the next couple of minutes for Different Dimensions, but you also scan down the items. Another item that's being picked up by Take Fun comes in with the Zhonya's Hourglass. So if he wants it slippery enough with his invulnerability from his E, he's also got the Zhonya's Hourglass just in case he needs it.
DD are going to get given a bit of respite by the fact that Libic just used his Solar Flare in the middle lane, and that in the beginnings of a team fight here at Dragon could be a massive factor. They're not doing this all that fast, and Anon Psycho is around. Different Dimension could look to pick up some scraps at the end of this.
True. Oh, Reason Gaming could do the same as they move on to Mage Bane. Lands to chum the waters. That's Anami dropping very low, is ticking down from the red buff. Zayu follows through, does not land his Sonic Wave, but they're still on the chase. They want even more from this. Mage Bane gets taken up for the first quarter fight by Celeber. Quick exchange on the mid lane as though as
Kubon's
Dominant
here.
will be picking up this kill. Kubon is in this fight, but they're actually disengaging. Anon Psycho wants to go back in for more. Kubon is right in the middle of the fight, but has he got anything to do in this fight as Anon Psycho picks up the opposing jungler, uses an ultimate just to slam away the Rammus. Dominant looking to pick up more kills, but does get hit by a boulder toss. He's dropping low, but Leona just kind of walks in and gets fed to the grinder of DD. 3 for 1 in exchange for the Dragon.
DD with a much scrappier fight than they would have liked there. They took far too much damage on the way into that fight. Between Take Fun and Celeber, they laid so much damage up through that jungle corridor that there was absolutely no way the Different Dimension could do anything but turn and run. But even after Kubon came to the fight, his cooldowns weren't in line. He just transformed into Mega Gnar, tried to jump in, but didn't actually have his E available, so couldn't get the positioning on his ultimate, and you have to push them into a wall. That is the key point with Gnar's ultimate, is they have to hit terrain. And if they don't, it basically just becomes a disengage tool like we saw out of Kubon. Honestly, though, Different Dimension, everybody coming into this series was saying, DD won't make it past Reason. Well, this is the start, maybe the makings. Yes, they're still down a little bit, but it's only 300 gold.
Yeah. But what can be said, though, is they are way more even, and in fact, way more even than anyone would have expected. And this is if this is the beginnings of anything, this is where they should be starting. They're in the perfect place.
And they've got a great foundation to do it on. 5-0-3 on Dominant. And let's take a moment to look at Dominant as a player. He was formerly a mid laner, up until very recently as well. So this guy isn't even, you know, a guy that's touted as a top challenger AD carry. He is bullying around bottom lanes all the way through this expansion tournament, and he swapped up to mid lane, to bot lane now, and is looking so strong.
Yeah, and if you're going to compare him to anyone, as Celiva and Zayu take away the red buff successfully this time around, he's up against Celiva, ex-LCS player until very recently. So it's not like he's declined in skill. He's just as good, if not better, people are saying. So up against this type of player, no one can doubt how good of an AD carry Dominant is.
That is very true, and I am honestly impressed. I am having such a great time watching Dominant, you know, lay out his AD carries here. I'm glad to see he's not just a Corki player, though. That is another thing that a lot of people were worried about. But let's take stock a little bit here. It's been a wild couple of minutes in this game, nearly 30 minutes in, and let's take a look at the items.
Yeah, so scanning down the items here, we do have the Randuins, in fact, just completed by Rammus, so he is in a pretty good place when it comes to the tankiness. Now I'm looking at the top lane as it is now being sieged in by Reason Gaming. Takefun has used his escape already, still has the Zhonya's if he needs it, but here comes the ultimate and the all-in, the flash and the taunt. He's dead and gone and taken away by TD.
A little bit over-aggressive by Takefun, but the chase is still on here. Different Dimension have a lot of burst on movement speed.
Oh, almost past the the Solar Flare rather, comes down, slows him up. That should be enough to not take away another kill, but Warrior Lady is coming in from behind up at the top lane. This is being countered by a mid lane push, but Libic has been caught out here by Warrior Lady. Flashes over the wall, Sapling for the vision as well. Can they get in range though? Dominant over the wall, will follow with all this damage. And the face of the mountain trying to keep him alive. He's just going to be the sacrificial lamb, trying to take up as much time as possible for the mid lane as they are trying to take this inhibitor turret. It's gone down, they're going for the inhibitor. Magebane, Kubon comes in from the side, Wallop comes down, Magebane gets taken out, and they're trying to pick up this kill onto Gnar, but his job is done. He's distracted them from the Baron.
That is a massive push here into the inhibitor, and Reason don't look like they're even stopping here. Dominant hasn't recalled. What are Reason doing? They're still pushing into the base. This could be a Nexus turret going down. No, they have to turn. There is no way they can actually take this. And Anon Psycho, that kick.
That kick was perfect from Zayu. Her in the top lane, no, Takefun has respawned from base. Dominant will be cleansing out of the way of the Chum the Waters, though won't be taking that damage. And Takefun doesn't fancy his chances up against Lucian without his ult.
If you look at that previous engagement as an isolated incident, losing Magebane there is not a big factor, but they lost an inhib. That is a massive factor in this game. The Reason have just kick-started their way through round 2 potentially, because, I mean, okay, the gold's even, but an inhibitor at 30 minutes into the game opens up so many possibilities here for Reason.
That was such a smart strategic play coming in from Reason Gaming, and that alone shows the team's experience in these high pressure situations. Okay, kill goes down at the top lane. Most teams won't think to look, what else can they take away from the map? Most teams will not think, yeah, we can take an inhibitor away from this. Reason Gaming did.
Oh man, this is a great first game of the day here, and Different Dimension. What have they got to hold on to in this? They have to wait out Reason Gaming now for the next few minutes. Make sure they don't take Baron. Make sure you've got vision control, and Zayu is going to deter that as much as possible, getting into the jungle, planting as many wards down as he can, and those sweepers are just going to be used all over the board to completely black out the vision here for Different Dimension.
So now look at the items once again. Everyone has gone back to base with a fair chunk of change after picking up the inhibitor and the inhibitor turret, and now it's not the same items in the bot lane, but Celiva is definitely catching up as we now look to the top lane. Anon Psycho gets the taunt again onto that Fizz. Piercing Light bumps him as well. Won't be the kill coming out. Face of the Mountain had to be used on the mid laner of Fizz. And Anon Psycho is looking for yet another taunt here.
All of the ultimates are still available for a reason, so Different Dimension look like they want to fight this, but there's an important one that gets forced out.
Yeah, Ezreal ultimate comes across though, and Anon Psycho is taking a fair bit of punishment, too much for his liking, so he'll decide to cancel off the engagement call and back off to his turret here. But at any point in time, Aramis, especially when he has his flash, which is not up currently, very scary with the flash taunt.
DD have to back away, though, and they have to really send Dominant at this point in the game. Nobody else is all that strong enough to deal with super minions, especially considering the start to this game that Ari had. They really need Magebane to stay around here, land one of the charms here, so that they can defend this turret. But Different Dimension have not seen the Baron attempt yet.
And we spoke about their vision gain this game, and it's still lacking despite actually having an advantage earlier on. This is going down very quickly, and it will be taken away. Kick over the wall into Red Buff, and Red Buff spawns as well, so he can't even Powerball back to the pit. That's taken away. Such a good play by Zayu. Now the Charm of the Waters comes out to pick up even more, but it doesn't matter. The job is done. Reason Gaming take Baron.
At the same time, Zayu actually flashed over the pit just to make sure he got that smite down. Did not want Anon Psycho getting over there, but you already talked about the flash was not available, so it was just the fact that they didn't want any massive damage spike from Different Dimension to pick that up. But Reason Gaming are in full control of at least the flow of this game. The gold is still even between these two teams.
Yeah, they take away Dragon, which will put it slightly in their favor, but this game has never really strayed any higher than 2,000 gold between these two teams. Yes, the momentum is now in the favor of Reason Gaming, but is it a question of Different Dimensions? Can they win another fight? Absolutely, in the state they're currently in.
And the way they have to win the next fight is either catch Kuban and Mininar with a taunt, with any of their crowd control, which is easier said than done because Kuban, I don't feel, is going to be anywhere out of position as Na, or attempt to disengage. Use the tidal wave, attempt to disengage until Mega Na form is gone. At that point, Dominant is almost, uncatchable. Almost. It would take Zayu diving all the way through into the backline, which is difficult against a Rammus and a Maokai. The same with Take Fun. So Dominant just sits all the way back and puts out his damage.
And if we look back at the previous teamfight stress, up until Kuban heading into the teamfights, they weren't doing very well at all. Reason Gaming were straight up losing. But as soon as he arrived, it just all went the way of Reason Gaming. And now if we take a look at the items as well, Thorn Mail has just been picked up by Kuban. You can clearly see Reason Gaming, they are fearful of Dominant.
They really are. That is, that's a difficult Na to kill right now. There is not a lot that's actually going to take Kuban from this map if he's in Mega Na form, because remember, he'll get that spike of health and resistances just from being in Mega Na form. And as he transforms, you can see just how much health he has. Currently sat just under 4,000 health. That's difficult to deal with.
Culling comes through here by Dominant to clear out that minion wave, buying time, trying to weather the storm as Reason Gaming are circling this base, pushing in the middle lane as well, making sure that they just stay on top. But now here comes the siege. Yes, they've already broken the inner circle of inhibitor turrets, but they're finding it pretty difficult to do that again.
Yeah, there is a fair amount of wave clear here from Different Dimension between the Culling and the static shiv that Lucian has as well. And of course Magebane. But over on Reason's side, their Baron buff still has about a minute on it. The inhib has respawned and is exposed in the middle lane, so they can just easily take down that top lane tower and then rotate mid. From Reason's perspective, it's a vision game now. They can just strangle out Different Dimension for as long as possible. The fact that Different Dimension's crowd control is all single target based does somewhat make it difficult for someone like Kuban to split push, because if he does get caught, it's going to result in a kill. But Reason have so much elsewhere on the map that they can still take objectives.
And right now, this has absolutely gone to a stalemate here from Reason Gaming. They've just circled around the base, couldn't even take the inner turret here, and now they just all went back to base, picked up a bunch of items, and they're going to try again.
And the problem is they couldn't take a turret. And that comes from their lack of wave clear. That's one of the problems with taking Fizz in that mid lane role, is he does not have the wave clear necessary to be able to push turrets. Na, yes, you have Boomerang Blade, but that does a little damage on the way out, none on the return if it's already hit the targets. And Ezreal doesn't have anything like an Iceborne Gauntlet or a static Shiv because he's opted for the Trinity Force. And that means he's only got the, his Q and his autos to clear a wave through.
And here they just try again, clearing out the waves, move between these lanes, and actually just try to get something done. But Different Dimensions, I mean, the longer they wait, the stronger the team gets. And it only needs one pick at this stage in the game to be catastrophic for, honestly, either team. Warrior Lady on the offensive, flashes over the wall, uses Twisted Advance onto Libbing. Maybe not the target you want to be assassinating, but you have these big threats on the side of Reason Gaming. Solar Flare comes in, gets the stun down onto Dominant. Kubon now in Megaform, the perfect time to strike. Anon Cycle will be the first to fall. The front line is evaporating from DD. Warrior Lady can't stick around, but Dominant takes down Leona. Here's the turnaround. Everyone is so incredibly low by Reason Gaming. Different Dimensions look to follow up, but can't get in range. Celeber comes in and tries to tag them on the way out.
The position for that fight from Different Dimension was superb. They had Maokai right at the front with the damage reduction. This might not be over, but they had such a good fighting position because nobody could get to Dominant again, but Kubon!
Oh, Kubon has teleported in from behind and looks for this engage to happen. Here comes John the Watered, but he already drops. Shutdown now comes in for Kubon. He is so damn tanky. Here comes the Mega Form, and now he will not be able to be taken down. Crunch over the wall, and he took out Dominant. He got his target.
Oh my goodness, that teleport, they got it though. 8-1-5 now the scoreboard reads for Dominant, and that was what they needed Kubon to do in the last fight. Yes, that's a nice consolation prize here from the fact they got chased away, but that was a teleport being used. Warrior Lady now has his teleport available. Baron is coming up in just over a minute, Dragon in under a minute, and Different Dimension are again holding this game very close because Reason cannot push in anywhere. They really just can't get anything done.
This is the first time in the game, though, Stress, that a larger gold advantage has opened up. Now looking at around the 4,000 gold mark, there is an advantage starting to be built up by Reason Gaming, but 38 minutes into the game, it's still not at the stage in the game where you could say this is an advantage that is really going to decide the game one way or another.
No, it's tough to call right now, because how do you fight against Different Dimensions composition? They've got Maokai reducing the damage. Rammus is tanky anyway. Dominant was godlike. There's just so much going Different Dimensions composition way. The Reason are relying on these picks. Reason are just relying on trying to use mobility here, but that's not easy once you get to this, 35, 40 minute mark.
That being said, they're relying on picks and they're still maintaining their vision control over this game. No matter how the state of the game was, they were always ahead in vision. And no matter where the game was, Zai was always looking for their red buff time after time after time, and that was because of their vision control.
But the thing now is, DD have established so much vision in their own jungle now on the defensive side that they know that Dragon has just gone down. They can read the flow of the game here and tell exactly where Reason are. Especially with Ezreal showing in the bottom lane, this is going to pretty much flip a switch here from Different Dimension. They're going to have all the time in the world. Baron just spawned as well.
Yeah, and Different Dimensions say, okay, I guess we'll go towards Baron now. Kubon is around the area. Leona's just come back from base. This could be risky if they decide to start it, but they're waiting inside the bush. They have full control over this area in terms of vision, but they have now been spotted out. Kubon doesn't have any rage, so this is not really the fight that they want unless it's prolonged. And despite Celeber being in the bottom lane, they position correctly after that.
But DD got the vision control from there. And when you have this much single target focus, now having the vision control draws the enemy team into dewarding, and that can potentially lead to situations where you get a pick. So Different Dimension right now have the vision control of their own top jungle. And for a team that have an exposed inhibitor in their favor, Reason Gaming should really have a better control on this topside jungle than they do right now.
Where is the breaking point of this game, though? Because we've seen Barons go over to a team, we've seen back and forth fights, we've seen huge kills happen either way, but no huge advantage. And the only big advantage in the base was that inhibitor, which was positioning based. What does it take for a team to get out ahead and win the game?
It's all on Dominant. This game has just become everything about Dominant. If he stays alive during the next team fight, Different Dimension will win this game. If he falls early on and doesn't take out Reason Gaming, then RG are going to put a notch in the one column.
Oh, Warrior Lady has been caught out, but this is the front line in the place they need to be. But Mage Bane is nowhere near, and on Psycho may drop before they really want to fight. Now Ari is in the fight. Zayu gets dropped. This is 1 kill in advance of 2DD. No ultimate hits free. Lands the wallop onto free as well. The whole team disintegrates. 4 for 1. Make that 5 for 1. Warrior Lady, only one is still alive. Triple kill to take fun, and this will be the game for Reason Gaming.
Kill credit goes to Zayu on that one, straight into the back of the fight, bypasses every bit of the crowd control from Different Dimension and kicks Dominant right into Reason Gaming. And from there, that is an easy cleanup for Reason Gaming. Credit to them for getting that kick through, but that is only game 1 of this series.
It is, and now it's just housekeeping from Reason Gaming. 30 seconds on the clock for them, and there is no way they cannot finish this game. What an incredible start to this series. But DD not out of the running. Now we have the Nexus falling, and Reason Gaming will be taking the first game of this best of 3 in round 2 of the EU LCS expansion tournament.
Oh my. That was a great